Hello everyone, this is The Last Word and I'm Maria Shakil. The Supreme Court made history today, ordering the last step of Chandigarh's mayoral election in the courtroom and witnessing the counting of votes. It has never happened in Supreme Court's history. At the end of it, Aadmi Party's Kuldeep Kumar was declared the mayor by the judges. In fact, a bench led by Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, which examined the ballot papers this morning and slammed the returning officer who invalidated 8 votes by defacing them. The court said, and I quote, "It is duty-bound to ensure that the democratic process is not set at naught by such subterfuge." It went on to say, "We are therefore of the view that the court must step in such exceptional circumstances to ensure that the basic democratic mandate is ensured." And after the counting, the judges said that the petitioner is declared to be validly elected candidate for the post of Mayor of Chandigarh Municipal Corporation. Before, it ordered legal proceedings against the erring poll official. Anil Masih, the presiding officer, faces the possibility of contempt of court. He has to show cause within 3 weeks why action should not be taken against him. First the reactions and then the debate.
इतने कठिन समय में आज जो देश के अंदर जो हालात हैं, पूरा डिक्टेटरशिप चल रही है, जनतंत्र को कुचला जा रहा है जगह जगह, सारे इंस्टीट्यूशंस जो हैं वो एक तरह से कुचले जा रहे हैं, रौंदे जा रहे हैं। ऐसे में सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ये जो फैसला है ये बहुत मायने रखता है जनतंत्र के लिए, और जनतंत्र को बचाने के लिए ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट का फैसला बहुत अहम है। इंडिया गठबंधन की ये बहुत बड़ी जीत है, पहली जीत है, बहुत बड़ी जीत है और बहुत बड़े मायने रखती है। एक तरह से उन लोगों से छीन के लाए हम लोग ये जीत। उन लोगों ने तो चोरी कर लिया था ये चुनाव, उन लोगों ने तो वोट चोरी कर लिए थे, लेकिन हमने हार नहीं मानी। हम आखिरी समय तक लड़ते रहे, संघर्ष करते रहे और अंत में हमारी जीत हुई।
You think you'll get this relief for Kuldeep Kumar, because when you started you actually asked for a re-election, and then of course, as the Chief Justice of India himself said, there's horse trading that is taking place. This is quite a historic verdict in many ways.
I think it's a very important verdict in the judicial history of India. The first time the court has intervened in an election process which had been concluded and held that there was a serious irregularity in the election process conducted by the presiding officer, who had himself defaced the votes and derailed the elections, and the marks that he had put on those ballot papers became the reason for invalidation of those votes. The court has now given a verdict that those 8 votes which were declared as invalid are actually valid votes, and by counting them along with the 12 votes which were polled earlier, he gets 20 votes, and the petitioner has been declared elected as the mayor of Chandigarh.
There has been no precedent like this, sir, ever in recent times. Do you ever recall any such incident that has ever happened before? Because I can't see when an electoral process is done. Today, the Supreme Court has unilaterally taken that role under the Constitution to go ahead and declare the mayor, your petitioner as the candidate.
I think the electoral process was hijacked by the misconduct of the mayor, and the Supreme Court has taken a very valid cognizance of the same, and they have held that the entire edifice of democracy is based upon free and fair elections, and in the manner that it is found that they have not conducted themselves fairly is a reason enough to order the election of the mayor in the verdict by the court.
And joining me on the show, Reena Gupta, spokesperson of the Aadmi Party. We have Aman Lekhi, senior advocate of the Supreme Court. Ashutosh Tosh is a political analyst. Mahima Singh, representing the Congress. And Sukhpreet Singh, leader of the BJP. A farcical election set aside, Aman Lekhi, but the Supreme Court went ahead and counted the votes and also declared a mayor here.
Well, a right decision. This was not a case of ineptitude, blundering or bumbling. This was a clear case of rascality and roguery. And in this particular case, when things stared one in the face, it was quite apparent that insofar as the electoral process was concerned, was completely compromised. The Supreme Court had fielded its duty had it not intervened and passed the order which has actually been passed. Normally, you have provisions like 142, which are basically ornamental. And the Supreme Court too has on earlier occasions in some way not intervened proactively where the situation demanded immediate attention. But I think the process of justice has been vindicated and an order which was warranted has been passed to undo a wrong which was staring everyone in the face and which in some way had irretrievably compromised a process which had necessarily to be having elements of rectitude and propriety which are utterly compromised.
And would you also say that the CCTV footage was the clincher? And that is the reason why, you know, we have seen some very, very sharp reactions come in from the apex court against the presiding officer here.
Well, what is important is that this was not a hasty decision. This culminated over a couple of dates where the court examined the CCTV footage, then talked to the electoral officer to eventually form an opinion. What is important is that the gentleman in charge of this particular process himself admitted what had actually happened, because insofar as the ballots are concerned, the ballots should not be tampered with. There are limited ways in which ballots are to be used, and the role of the electoral officer is very constrained because the process is actually to ventilate the intent of the voters. And the process is hijacked by a person who's to regulate it, then the undermining of the process requires judicial correction. And the correction was duly undertaken. This is a verdict which was, as I said, necessary. And I don't think any other verdict would have been appropriate in the circumstances.
Absolutely. I mean, the faith in the electoral process perhaps has been restored with this verdict by the Supreme Court. Supreet Singh, was there some kind of premature celebration by the BJP? Because you knew very well you did not have the numbers.
It is not all about the numbers, ma'am. ये जो पर्टिकुलरली प्रोसेस के लिए बोला जा रहा है, अभी कोर्ट ने इंक्वायरी इशू करी है. लेट इंक्वायरी, जो भी इंक्वायरी है उसको प्रॉपरली इंक्वायर होने दो. उसके बाद जो रिजल्ट आता है हम प्रीमेच्योरली ही उसको आम आदमी पार्टी जो है उसको रिजल्ट्स में
नहीं, आम आदमी पार्टी प्रीमेच्योर नहीं बोल रही है. आप देखेंगे कोर्ट ने साफ तौर पे कहा है कि जो मसीह साहब हैं उन्होंने गलत फैसला लिया है और उन्होंने उनके अगेंस्ट में कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ कोर्ट क्यों नहीं हो. बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग वर्ड्स हैं और उनके पूरे एक्शन को क्वेश्चन किया गया है.
कोर्ट ने इंक्वायरी मार्क करी है. कोर्ट ने कंडक्ट में बोला है कि आप कुछ ऐसी चीजें वहां पे पेपर पे साइन कर सकते थे, आप लिख प्रॉपर उस पे मार्क नहीं कर सकते थे, जो कि इग्नोरेंस है उस पर्टिकुलर पर्सन की.
No. I think politically, I'm not too sure if it's wise on BJP's part to take this stand today, which you are saying, because if anything, this will be seen.
I am not justifying
because if anything, this, as the judges said, it was the murder of democracy.
Prematurely हम इस पे क्यों आ रहे हैं कि उसने गलती किया होगा. लेट पूरी इंक्वायरी.
That is what the Supreme Court has said. I don't think so. You have heard what the Supreme Court has said, and you are aware of the verdict which has come from the Supreme Court. Reena, please go ahead.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आज इंक्वायरी मार्क करी है. इंक्वायरी आए प्रॉपर्ली.
आपने लगता है इस कोर्ट का पूरा फैसला सुना नहीं है. रीना गुप्ता, go ahead. Reena.
Maria, it's
Yes.
all this country. Supreme Court finally come to our rescue, and it's a great day for democracy in the country. It was very clear and everything was recorded on camera how Bharatiya Janata Party cheated in the mayor election. एक छोटी सी म्युनिसिपैलिटी, लोगों को पता भी नहीं है चंडीगढ़ का मेयर का है, उसके लिए इन्होंने इतनी धोखाधड़ी करी. जैसे वो गली मोहल्ले में क्रिकेट होता है ना, जब बच्चे हार जाते हैं तो बैट बल्ला लेके भाग जाते हैं, अपनी हार नहीं मानते. उसी तरह का बिहेवियर भारतीय जनता पार्टी का चंडीगढ़ मेयर इलेक्शन में था. लेकिन आज बहुत खुशी का दिन है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कड़ा तमाचा मारा है भारतीय जनता पार्टी के चेहरे पे. और इस सारे जो इन्होंने अभी, अरे बोलने दीजिए ना, शांत होइए. आज के दिन तो चुपचाप बैठिए आप. आज के दिन चुपचाप बैठिए. सुप्रीम कोर्ट से फटकार लगी है आपको. आज बैठिए चुपचाप और सुनिए. इतनी ज्यादा धोखाधड़ी करके अगर आप एक छोटा सा चुनाव जीत भी जाते तो क्या होता. आप ये सोचिए कि लोकसभा
मैडम,
का जो
आप खुद
चुनाव
बोल रही
आने
हैं,
वाला
छोटा
है,
सा चुनाव है तो
जिसमें
बीजेपी
90
के लिए
करोड़
अहमियत
लोगों
नहीं
का
रखता।
वोट पड़ेगा। नहीं मारिया, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू डिबेट लाइक दिस।
No, no, no.
He needs to
Reena,
shut up.
let's have
I'm not
only
going to
Reena
debate
on
like
the
this.
screen.
इनको
Reena,
चुप
you know,
कराइए इनको।
of course, this is going to be seen as a huge relief for the Aam Aadmi Party because, if anything, an election of this nature where you had the numbers should not have gone through this entire legal scrutiny because it was given that the Aam Aadmi Party should have won this election. My question then is, did the Aam Aadmi Party also overplay it by saying that this is some kind of India versus BJP election?
Maria, I would like to correct you that it is not a victory for just Aam Aadmi Party. It's a victory for all of us who believe in a due democratic process. Voting is a pious thing. एक बहुत पवित्र लोकतंत्र का त्योहार है वोट डालना। कि जैसा आपने वोट डाला है उसको मान्यता दी जाएगी. So it's not a victory for Aam Aadmi Party or the India Alliance. It's a victory for democracy. It's a victory for all the citizens of this country.
Okay.
And the other point that I want to make, Mara, is
Ashutosh,
that it has become clear.
Ashutosh, how do you see this? Of course, there is that challenge which Aam Aadmi Party also faces with 3 of its councillors having defected to the BJP.
See, Maria, this is the clear-cut case where the BJP is caught red-handed. You know, I don't mince my word, and I have to say this. The issue is a presiding officer. The presiding officer of election itself is manipulating in favor of a political party. What could be his interest? Why he should be doing this? Unless he has some ulterior motive or he has been told by somebody else to do it, why will he do it? That's a simple question. The simple question is that unless he has been told, and he has been told by somebody very, very powerful, a small fry can't, because somebody must have told him that come what may, you have to do this for the party and you have to, and nobody will touch you. I think that the people who planned this, they never expected the Supreme Court will be so harsh. And in the entire history of Indian electoral democracy, this is for the first time, the votes were counted in Supreme Court. And the Chief Justice of India has interrogated this gentleman. If this gentleman has even an iota of shame, he should not be showing his face anywhere because he has embarrassed, insulted the Indian democracy globally. India is not like Pakistan. The way the presiding officers, those who were given the responsibility to conduct election, they are seen to be manipulating in favor of political party. If this becomes a trend in the country, there will be death of democracy in this country. And I am sure the BJP spokesperson who's sitting over here, they have absolutely no idea. He's saying that abhi to investigation hoga, falana dhimkana. Accept kariye gracefully. You have to accept it gracefully that this was a mistake and they did it. And I will not call it a mistake. I will not call it this is a brazenness, knowing fully well that in this country, situation has come to this pass, that institutions have surrendered and nobody will take any action against this fellow, and this fellow will come victorious. Did not expect that the Supreme Court can be so harsh.
Okay, so will the Congress party, after this, take up the battle that they have been talking about in the context of EVMs to the Supreme Court? Because Aam Aadmi Party questioned an entire election. There was proof, which was the CCTV proof, and we saw the results. So if either you question the electoral process the way you have been doing with evidence, and if you don't have evidence, don't let people lose faith in the electoral process.
You're asking me?
Mahima.
Okay.
जय हिंद। कैसे आकाश में सुराख नहीं हो सकता, एक पत्थर तो तबीयत से उछालो यारो, Dushyanth Kumar has said, Maria, and I think the words stand vindicated today as India stands victorious, as democracy has been prevented from being defaced. And I think, what has been proven over and over again, and this time again today, is that the questions asked of the accountable people are fixing the accountability and asking the questions of the right person at the right moment can really swivel the whole discourse. And I think there's a thing or two to learn there for the Indian media personnel also. I think the CJI today, Honorable CJI has shown us how to ask those questions, whom to ask those questions of. And I think, as Ashutosh ji already pointed out, I would second that yes, he was not acting in isolation. He was acting at behest of somebody very powerful. And that needs to be found out who was that. Because, of course, he is an erstwhile member and an office bearer of the BJP. And the world already calls us an electoral autocracy. You asked me of the EVMs. The Congress party is putting up the fight very rigorously. Wherever we sense that there's a sense of injustice, wherever there's a sense of partisan conduct by the ruling dispensation. And the ruling dispensation, you see, has just shown us a specimen. This broad daylight murder of democracy, as the Honorable CJI had pointed out earlier when he said that the purity of electoral process is the only hope for this democracy. And what are you doing? So this specimen of the BJP's conduct is out for everybody to see. And whether it is the Congress or it is anybody who believes in this process of democracy, in this phenomenon called democracy, will, I think, after today, raise their voices in a much stronger manner at the right platforms. And I think, as I said earlier, you know, those who,
so Preet Singh,
who have the power to ask
would you accept that this is an embarrassment?
Actually, I'll say this, इसको ना बम जैसा बनाया जा रहा है, इसको ऐसे बनाया जा रहा है जैसे सारा प्रोसेस ही खराब हो गया। हिंदुस्तान की सारी जनता जिन्होंने आज वोटिंग करी है बीजेपी को, सब गलत है। सिर्फ और सिर्फ जो कांग्रेस आप
नहीं वो नहीं बोला, जनता पे सवाल नहीं उठ रहा,
एक ही प्रोसेस को बनाया जा रहा है। मैम, ये बात सुनने वाली है।
जनता पे सवाल नहीं, प्रिसाइडिंग ऑफिसर पे सवाल है।
आप
अनिल मसीह पे सवाल
तगड़ा तमाचा पड़ा है।
बड़ी सारी जनता की आवाज सारी बेकार है। सिर्फ जो ये प्रोसेस के, इस प्रोसेस को, अगर ये प्रोसेस जो पर्टिकुलर इस प्रोसेस को बात किया जाए, हम सारे प्रोसेस इलेक्ट्रॉनिक प्रोसेस पे क्वेश्चन उठा रहे हैं on the basis of this particular
I don't think so. You're again getting my question. I'll bring in Reena and then give the last word to Aman Lekhi. Please go ahead, Reena.
Maria, I am very happy today that the Supreme Court has saved the day for democracy. I hope that in future, Bharatiya Janata Party will not do these brazen illegal activities, and they should realize that the whole country is watching how to win their election. They went ahead and disqualified 25% of the votes. Out of 36 votes, 8 votes were disqualified. All elected for mayor of a municipality of Chandigarh, which is only for 1 year. So, God forbid, I am not sure what all they are planning for the upcoming Lok Sabha election. We all, the media and all of us citizens, we have to keep a watch out and make sure that this process of democracy remains what it is for all of us.
And Aman Lekhi, an order of this nature, but before that, I'll also bring in Ashutosh. Ashutosh, does this give some kind of hope to the India bloc, which is certainly, disheartened and has faced multiple psychological blows because of not being able to arrive at any kind of alliance? You have to unmute yourself, Ashutosh.
Maria, but this, I was thinking that this is really a very small election. And for the small election, if the matter has to go to the Supreme Court, don't forget, in Delhi, after the MCD election, when Aam Aadmi Party won, what happened there? But there was a total brazenness. And again, the matter has to go to the court. And the court intervened, and only then MCD mayor was elected in Delhi. So I just fail to understand what is so big about these small MCD elections and the Chandigarh mayor elections. Why such brazenness has to be done? Even if you lose election, accept it gracefully. But the fact of the matter is that this is where it really shakes me. That if such a brazenness is shown in such a small election, what will happen at the national level? If there is a chance of losing election, where will it go?
Okay, but certainly what it does is that the entire opposition today is, lauding this and celebrating this verdict of the Supreme Court. They're not really questioning the judiciary today. Let me bring in Aman Lekhi. You get the last word, sir. the bench could have stopped at just declaring this entire electoral process invalid and pulling up the presiding officer. But something unprecedented happened today, which was about counting of the vote and declaring a candidate.
Well, what the Supreme Court has said is that you can't in any way embezzle electoral outcomes. This is very important. And in doing what it did, it is what you call prudential reasoning. Look at the consequences, what you yourself pointed out, because had there been a re-election with there being three members crossing out the BJP, a re-election may have tilted the numbers in favor of the BJP. Because this was in fact a process which was in some way jeopardized and the integrity of which was suspect. What the Supreme Court did was, in the face of what is clearly an offense against public justice, I'm surprised that only an issue of contempt has been raised. These attracts various provisions of the Indian Penal Code. We have a separate chapter, offences against public justice. This is fabricating evidence, giving false declarations. They are very serious offences and made more serious because the nature in which this particular exercise has been undertaken, and it was concerning an electoral outcome. The message the Supreme Court has given, and a clear message has to be given, because we are an electoral democracy, and electoral democracy is in some way premised upon the soundness of that particular process, and it is predicated upon a belief in the credibility of the entire exercise. What the Supreme Court has actually said is that this is in some way to be left untouched, and it cannot in any way be sullied or interfered with so as to jeopardize the entire exercise around which our democratic polity in fact revolves. So I think it's a very important judgment. As I said in the beginning itself, I don't think any other judicial outcome was warranted. And for once, we have a verdict which, in my opinion, crosses and all the relevant aspects which were earlier ignored in various issues, and to bring to the fore matters of importance which we cannot look away from.
All right. Reena Gupta, but how much of a concern is this, particularly of three of your, councillors having defected to the BJP? Because numerically, if you look at it, that's going to be a challenge right now.
So, Maria, issue of Bharatiya Janata, that EDC.
Okay, there seems to be some problem with that line. Reena Gupta, Aman Lekhi, Ashutosh, Mahima and Sukhpreet, thank you so much for joining us. And the farmers will be resuming their protest tomorrow after they turn down the government's 5-year proposal to buy 3 types of pulses, maize, cotton at the old MSP. In fact, jute sacks and other things have been brought in at the border, Shambhu border to be specific, and it seems that the government is also preparing for a counter plan with barricading.
So just hours from now, tomorrow farmers have finally decided to start their tractor march towards New Delhi. Now, what is going to happen tomorrow? There are no new restrictions or orders which have been issued either by the Punjab or Haryana government or the police administration. The diversions for people who are traveling from Punjab, from Chandigarh to Delhi or from Delhi to Chandigarh is placed or is as it was issued a week ago on day 1 of the protest, that is on Feb 13th. There are diversions if you're traveling from Delhi towards Chandigarh, then the diversion is between Kurukshetra and Karnal. And if you're traveling from this side, from Chandigarh to Delhi, then yet again you have to go from Panchkula, Ambala, and then you can go towards Kurukshetra, and from there you will get onto the national highway near Karnal and Kurukshetra. So as far as new restrictions are concerned, there is no any new restrictions or advisory which has been issued by Punjab or Haryana government. The traffic diversion on Delhi-Chandigarh route is as it is, which was issued on Feb 13. Now coming to what may happen tomorrow, going by the history or going by what happened back in 2020, farmers had gathered back then near the Shambhu border. They had breached those barricades. Tractors had moved into Ambala, and they sort of moved on the national highway from Ambala to Kurukshetra, then Karnal, Panipat, Sonipat, and near Singhu border in Sonipat district. The same if we go by what happened the last time, the plan is as it is, that even tomorrow, heavy machines have been brought in by farmers. Mass mobilization is happening across Punjab. Farmers from almost every district are reaching either near the Shambhu border, which is an interstate border between Punjab's Patiala and Haryana's Ambala district, or they are moving towards the Khanori border. The Khanori border is an interstate border between Punjab's Patiala district and Haryana's Jind district. As far as restrictions or as far as preparation is concerned, cemented structures have been erected by the Haryana police, by the Haryana government on the highways, on the interstate border. We have seen in the last 7 days how tear gas shells were used. Near Khanori border, the allegations of pellet guns being used it was being alleged by the protesters there. There are many injuries. So the situation is likely to be very tense tomorrow, because the farmers have now clearly rejected the government's proposal, and as of now, or as of today, the government has not sent out any communication for any further talks or to ask farmers to not proceed with their march.